President Schill pretty much just told my whole life story, so I don't have anything left to say. I did grow up in Eugene, and doing this commencement, I've been telling everybody it's no big deal. But now that I'm up here, it's way more overwhelming than I could have imagined. So, give me a second. First of all, thank you to my family that's here, to my son, to my girlfriend, to my mom, to my friends. It's amazing that you guys believed in me, believed I could do this, and certainly it's their confidence in me that has helped me in everything that I've done. And congratulations to all of you. This is an incredible moment for you, graduates, as well as family, supporters. I feel humbled and honored to be here. When President Schill asked me if I would do this, immediately I said no. My reaction was, there's no way I'm ready for it. Actually, I thought it was something that old people did. And I was like, I'm still figuring all this out. Like, what could I possibly tell all of you about life? And he said, maybe it's better. You'll be more accessible that way if you are honest about what it's like. So I'm still a work in progress. I am, like you, on a journey somewhere, but I'm still figuring it out. And so rather than come up with a bunch of advice, I just wanted to tell you a few stories. And the first one is actually about my mom, who's here today. She was a super idealistic person. Her and her friends started a business here in Eugene called Eugene Weekly. Perhaps some of you have read it. They were community organizers. They were women entrepreneurs. They were, focused on women's rights, on, eating organic food and weird tofu and tempeh before it was popular. So I grew up in this environment where, everything was different, and expectations were really alternative. There was nothing that I was supposed to do in my life. And as an example of that, when I was playing basketball at South Eugene, I was being recruited by a few schools. Go Axemen. Axe, right? It's not Axemen anymore. So I was being recruited by the Air Force Academy. And, my mom has been an anti-war activist. When we were kids, we marched against war, and, they were marching to oppose war in Vietnam when they were younger. And so I was being recruited by the Air Force Academy, and one evening these two guys, the assistant coaches on the team, came to our house over on Lincoln Street. And they're in their blue suits, and they have crew cuts, and they're so earnest and excited. They come in, they throw a VHS tape in the VCR. You guys probably don't know what those are. But they play this cool video of aircraft carriers and fighter jets, and they're like, you can fly a plane, and they made this whole thing sound so incredible. And then afterwards they told me I could play basketball there, and I would be part of this incredible adventure. And my mom sat there the whole time, so calmly and friendly. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder how this is for her to be, have these Air Force guys sitting in her living room. And so afterwards, after they left, I said, so what did you think? And she said, they were very nice, and this decision is completely up to you. I leave it to you to figure it out. In that moment, I realized something amazing, that my mom's restraint, she had so much idealism inside, so much passion in what she believed in. She lived by her values, and yet she never put them on me. She never told me what I was supposed to do. She never created any context that I was supposed to live up to. And that was such a gift. And so today, as you leave college, part of what you need to do is figure out, what's your framework for success? How do you define it for yourself? How do you let go of all the expectations that have come before, all the reasons perhaps that you came here, and start to figure it out for yourself? And that's going to be a constant effort, a constant journey for the rest of your life. The second story relates to that. It's a time I remember very clearly when I was here at architecture school, which I loved. I loved architecture school here. I truly found my passion. And I was sitting at my desk minding my own business. And this girl, my classmate, walks up to me and she goes, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally." And she's like, "I just want to tell you, you're actually really nice." I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, "Well, you know everyone thinks you're a total asshole." and I'm thinking, I'm like the nicest person. She's like, "Well, you know, everyone knows you play basketball and you have like really good grades and you walk around here and you never smile and you never say hi to anybody." And she's saying this to me, and it's literally like someone is pouring a bucket of cold water over my head because I'm so in shock. Like, to me, I see myself as this really friendly, nice person, you know, would never say a mean thing to anyone. And yet, because of my shyness, because of my social awkwardness, I was coming off to people like I was a jerk. And I had no idea, I had no awareness of that my energy was actually coming off of me in such a negative way. And so from that moment, I had this realization that it's not enough to just pursue your own passion. It's not enough to be driven to succeed, but you also have to realize how you show up in the world. You have to approach things with you have to have positive energy, and you have to be willing to share it. For everything that you succeed, every way that you succeed, it should be for the sake of sharing, and for the sake of sharing it with the people who love you and the people who are around you. So always take that with you, that feeling that, yes, you're going to strive for becoming your best self, but at the same time, it should always be for the sake of sharing with those around you. So I was living after I graduated in Portland, and I had this dream to move to New York City. I actually had it from the time I was a kid. And I always thought, you know, no matter what, if I can make it to New York, then my life is going to be set. It was like I had this vision that that's what was going to bring me fulfillment in life. And I'm thinking about it, you know, year after year. Finally, I moved there about a month before my 30th birthday. And those first few days, those first couple of weeks, I was like, this is amazing. I love living in New York City. I watched fireworks on my birthday from the rooftop of a building in Brooklyn, and I was like, this is it. I did it. A few weeks later, though, I was starting to feel down and depressed and confused and thinking, what do I do now? I reached this destination that I've been looking for all this time, and all of a sudden I feel empty. And I couldn't figure out why. And I was talking to a friend, you know, I was complaining, oh, New York City, it's so hard to live here, and it's so expensive, and, you know, my apartment is so crappy, and like, finding all the reasons to complain. And the friend said to me, you know what? I'm tired of hearing this from you. This is all on you. You're choosing to go into this negative energy. You're making a choice to not appreciate what you have. And in that moment, I realized that it was a decision. And I went on this walk. I left that conversation and started walking just randomly around the city. And 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, probably like a 6-hour walk. And in that time, I made a decision. I decided that instead of looking for a destination, instead of trying to figure out what is this formula of success, what is this next place I'm going to go, I just decided I would be open to anything. Literally, anything that comes my way, I'm going to embrace it with excitement and energy. And especially if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's hard, instead of turning away from it, that I would go into it, that I would look for those opportunities to grow through that challenge. And that openness, literally a few weeks later, is what puts me on stage here today. I was going to visit a friend in a building in Manhattan. It's like a 15, 20-story building. I get on the elevator, and there's this guy who comes in, and he's like this brash Israeli guy, and he's like talking loudly, he's saying hello to everyone on the elevator. And I don't know how many of you guys have been on a New York City elevator, but normally everyone's just standing there quietly, not speaking to each other. And this guy was like literally at one point holding the door open of the elevator so he could continue a conversation as one of the people walked down the hall. And I'm standing there like, this dude is crazy. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. And it literally made me uncomfortable that he was doing this. And that person became my business partner and one of my best friends. So, as you go through life, there are going to come moments that make you feel scared, that make you feel challenged, that perhaps can be overwhelming. Those are the ones to embrace. The easy path is always just going to be easy. The hard path is where you're going to find a chance to expand yourself and to become a greater version. So, this last story I hesitated to tell, but it's something I look back so fondly on when I think about the last 14 years in New York. And I feel like everyone who moves to New York has a rat story. We're famous for our rats. And so I moved to New York, and I'm working in this office, this little tiny office in Brooklyn, and a little architecture firm. And I was just starting out. I was sort of the lowest man on the totem pole. And so I got kind of the odd jobs around the office, and we had these plants, these house plants that we put by the window. And one morning, we walk in, and all of the dirt from the plants is on the floor, and all the roots are missing from the plants. I'm looking at it, I'm like, what happened? So I go on Google, I'm like, what eats roots from plants? Of course, like New York City rats, they like roots apparently. So I look around the office, and I walk around. I literally look in every single floor, wall, ceiling for a hole. I'm trying to figure out how are the rats getting in, thinking I'll patch up the hole to keep them out. And I can't find one anywhere. There's not a hole in this entire office. And so I'm like mystified. How can these rats be coming in and eating the plants? So I decide I'm going to stay up all night as long as it takes to catch the rat. And so I got this big collection of snacks, and I would sit very quietly at this desk in the corner so I could sort of see the office. And one night, a couple of days later, at about 2 a.m., sure enough, I see out of the corner of my eye, there's this rat. He's walking into the office. And this guy's big. He's like a fat rat. He must be eating plants all over the building, because he's doing really well. And so I see him, and then I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do now that I saw the rat? I had no plan beyond just trying to figure out how he's getting in. So I'm looking around, and I see there's a brick on a desk. It must have been a sample from a project. And so I think, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna smash him with the brick. I reach over, I'm slowly raising the brick, but as soon as he sees my arm, he, of course, his rat awareness peaked, and he flips a 180 and starts running full speed, and these rats are fast, towards the door. Now I'm thinking, as far as I know, rats don't know how to open doors. But he's determined, he's running so fast towards this door, and all of a sudden, at the last second, he reaches the door, and I swear, this rat flattens out to the thinness of a pancake and slides underneath the crack in the door, which is a half an inch tall. And I'm just standing there dumbfounded, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. So I went on Google again. I'm like, can rats actually flatten their bodies down to thinness of a pancake? And they can. Rats are actually incredible creatures. So I went to the hardware store the next morning. I bought one of those strips that you put on the bottom of the door. I screwed it in. I went to the plant shop, got some more plants, and I solved the rat problem. So So the reason I tell that story is because a lot of other cool stuff has happened in the last few years. We've been in magazines and Forbes and all, newspapers and all that stuff. And if you're lucky enough to achieve those things, that's amazing, but none of those things have been fulfilling as that process of actually dedicating myself to catching that rat. And so it's important for you as you are on your own path that you look for these things. You look for the ways that you can find true fulfillment in what you do. And it's not going to be always the external validation. It's not going to be what you think is going to make you feel good about the work that you do. And so you should be on a constant search for those amazing experiences where you just feel so connected to the work and to finding within yourself the strength to accomplish something. And I feel like that's really what we have, what our parents have given to us, what our generation has more than any other before, is this opportunity to define ourselves, to find ourselves in our own path, to find meaning in what we do. Because so many of the other structures have broken down. So many of the other expectations, the reasons that people do things have been disrupted. And now it's really on us to find true meaning for ourselves. And at WeWork, we're passionate about creating environments for people to go down that path, to be on that journey towards self-actualization, towards becoming your best self. And we actually work really hard at it. President Schill introduced me as Chief Creative Officer. Actually, through my architecture background, used to focus on the external environment and the design of the spaces. But I switched about a year ago to become Chief Culture Officer because I was so much more fascinated with the internal, with the journey that we have to go through within ourselves to become the best person that we can be. And we're all weirdos in our own way. We all have unique characteristics. We're all so different. And the greatest opportunity we have is to explore ourselves. And, you know, for us, we're incredibly lucky to be able to work every day to create this environment for people to explore that. But it's not enough for that to be just us. The responsibility of every employer, for every company that wants to employ one of you, should be to create an environment where you get the opportunity to pursue that best self, to become the best person that you can be. And you shouldn't settle for anything less. You should require the people who are employing you, the people who are going to support you financially in the job, should also care just as much about who you are as an authentic human being, and they should be investing in helping you become the best person you can be. Because the truth of this, the reality is that there's no making it. There's no matter if you're a founder of a billion-dollar company, no matter what, I'm never going to make it. There's no such thing as making it. Because as soon as you think you have it figured out, as soon as you've got all your shit together and your life is moving in the right direction, something is going to come and turn it all around and flip it upside down, and you're going to have to figure it out all over again. And that's scary, but it's also amazing because it means that you get the opportunity to reinvent yourself over and over and over again. And so, just like me, you're all works in progress, and I really am excited to be here and to share this moment with you, and I hope you enjoy it. But remember, you're going to have to wake up tomorrow and do it all over again. So, best of luck.